Okay. Jake.
Mm.
What concert costs 45 cents?
50 cents.
A 50-cent concert featuring Nickelback. Hello and welcome to day 27 for patrons of the extended advent calendar. And for you normal people, it's just some point in January.
Just a normal day.
Somewhere. Yeah, 2020. No, we're not. We talked about that last time. But yes, we are here again. Surprise, surprise, for another video with Jake.
Yep.
There's no enthusiasm, is there?
No, I'm enthusiastic.
Oh yes, you're enthusiastic, but you're holding it in, or
yeah.
Okay.
Conserving his energy for the actual episode.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Oh my! Look at that.
Oh, well. Last time was the Satan Pit, and you loved it.
Yeah, that was sick.
I think you said that two-parter was quite possibly your favourite story so far.
Yep.
If not, it was like on par with the series 1 finale, which is great. That's good to hear. Nice.
It's quite hard to beat that series 1 finale though.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's pretty top tier.
Yeah.
But yes, we are continuing series 2 with Love and Monsters.
Ooh, cute.
Cute? You think it's going to be cute, do you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you said you wanted some dark shit, but do you think you're going to get that from Love and Monsters?
Yes.
You think so? What's going to happen?
Probably. Betrayal.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You wouldn't call it Love and Monsters if you didn't have betrayal.
Is it some kind of poetry I haven't read?
No, but it makes sense because, monsters could, be double meaning of, know, the monster within humanity,
Yep.
Yeah.
I sort of get where you're coming
beings
from.
are quite horrible, aren't we?
Pretty shit.
We're the fucking worst, man.
Yeah. But not you guys. You guys are great. Patreon.com/.
Specifically you.
If you'd like to contribute
Viewer.
to the channel, we have multiple tiers,
You're
such as
great
the Timey
viewer.
Wimey tier. You get early access and exclusive access. And for those of you watching on Patreon right now, you will be getting this early access as you get your extended calendar.
Oh my god.
Multiple days in a row of
I don't know what that means.
Major League Baseball, the show of 19 is downloaded.
Great. The master tier where you get to request videos for us to do.
Hello, master.
Yes. And twitter.com/Giandrazani. It's been a bit interesting lately.
Has there been some beef? More Twitter beef.
It's been interesting lately.
Interesting.
He's been having arguments on Twitter.
I tried to come to the defense of our other co-host.
I think that's what Twitter's for.
Callum,
is having arguments.
That was a mistake, and now the channel's.
You just don't engage. No matter what your opinion is, just don't engage.
Apparently, I'm a psychopath. Because I like
you just don't engage on Twitter. You talk to the people, the fans, and you share Doctor Who things, but just avoid Twitter, man. It's bad.
Yeah. Let's just say we got in a bit of trouble, but it wasn't our
He
fault.
got in a bit of trouble.
I got in a bit of trouble.
Don't put any of that on me.
I got in trouble.
I don't exist.
And if it all disturbed you, I'm very sorry, but it's done now.
Yes.
And anyway, let's forget all about that. But follow on Twitter if you want to get in conversation.
At twitter.com/G Andrazani.
Hey.
Gandrazani, as you like to say. But yeah, anything else we want to say before we crack on with Love and Monsters?
No.
No?
Nah.
Never.
Never? Oh.
Let's crack on.
Beep-a-ba-ba-da-bo. Ba-ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-beep-a-ba-ba-da-bo. Oh, yep. 100% betrayal. I've nailed it on the head.
Yeah. Treachery.
Oh, camera quality's got a bit better. Or worse. Not sure, actually.
It's just slightly different, especially because it's such a different location.
Yeah. We've got natural light for once in the series.
I like that shot. It's like a western.
Marigold, you beaut. Is this you, Jake? you're the viewer trying to figure out what the show's all about.
What's that nasty smell?
And if you think that was the most exciting day of my life, wait till you hear the rest. Oh boy.
Hey, it's us. He's making YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me do a reaction to a Doctor Who episode.
But wait, there's more.
So what, that big monstrous thing, what's that?
Oh, wasn't that the thing on the thing?
In the what?
On the Christmas one?
No, they're similar with the
It's
sort
not
of
a
pointy
Super
bits.
X, it's called a Hoix, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
H-O-Y-X, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking oiks.
Russell T is
Oh,
back.
yo.
It's been ages.
Russell T. Daddies.
He hasn't given you any since Tooth and Claw.
I do love the makeup of that creature.
Oh, fucking pork chop. Hell yeah.
See how my dad talks to dogs? So is that dry ice or boiling water?
Both.
Who knows?
Either way, it would burn.
What is this?
Ever seen Scooby-Doo, Jay?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Oh my, brilliant comedy. Just stellar.
That wasn't the first time I met the Doctor, and it certainly wasn't the last. Oh no.
What? When was the first time we met him?
You'll see.
Oh.
But be warned, because it is gonna get scary.
Wow.
Still don't know. All those years ago.
He's Billy Piper's son. He's Rose's son.
Why? Because he's blonde.
I can see it. There is a faint resemblance. I could afford Elton John.
His delivery reminds me a bit of Michael Rosen.
Yeah.
Exploded.
Yeah. Oh,
Here we go.
what a throwback.
He was there. The night Clive died.
Rip Clive.
What a throwback. This was the beginning of this channel. The Slade!
Hey!
That would be fucking frightening if you saw that, like in real life,
Yeah.
like something crashing into Big Ben. And there you go.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Shkorex.
That's when it all started. That's how I met Victor Kennedy.
The hell, her voice does not match her face.
You know, she's the actress for
Moaning Myrtle.
Moaning Myrtle.
Oh, this dude's going to become a companion, isn't he?
So this isn't, my whole life.
Wouldn't have any idea.
Spaceships and stuff.
You would.
It's not like I've seen this before.
Never.
I like football. I like a drink.
This is all our first reaction.
Spain. And the Chick Light Orchestra.
Hell yeah.
Because you can't beat a bit of the other.
It's shining in the sky. There ain't a cloud in sight.
I hate happiness.
You hate happiness.
It's
Yep.
a
Do you hate yellow?
beautiful day.
Nah.
Hey, hey. I wish the episode was just that. It's just ELO.
The internet is a meltdown. Some things go.
I don't think that's the internet, mate. Your computer just died.
Oh,
That man again, but the photos.
clip art.
It was taken on Christmas Day, but Dr. Roy.
That's all it
Ah.
Everyone was celebrating, just being alive. And I snapped him in passing, that's all.
It sounds like someone's pitched her voice down.
Yeah.
Then they fell in love.
Mr. Skinner, first name Colin, but we always called him Mr. Skinner.
Principal Skinner.
She was ever so sweet, bless. Bless, bliss, he used to say.
What he could represent, and what he should represent, and what he never won't
Ooh, yes.
As a group.
Say it again. London Investigation and Detective.
N is just.
Road. I'll give you Linda.
Linda.
Oh, they just became friends. They all just became friends.
Wasn't aliens that took her away. It's just
King hell, Russell.
just keep looking for her.
Well, I mean.
It humanizes them, but it's such a sharp and sudden turn.
Oh, well, to be fair, it is a time lapse.
Yeah, I know, but it's
It's not unrealistic.
no, but it's just
Oh, is this you, Jake? You're the one playing the guitar.
Yeah.
Bloody musician. Though yours would be a lot more fucking.
At least I'm not an airhead.
Your music would be a lot more like. Fucking Dr. Die cunt.
No. A little bit. Musical Linda. What am I watching?
Jesus Christ.
This became a band.
Oh, they're so nasally.
they're using their head voice.
Yeah, shower voice.
Linda's getting shut down.
It's always that one person in the group.
And that's when it all changed. That Tuesday night in March. That's when he arrived.
Dumbledore.
That's when we met Victor Kennedy. The golden age.
I suffer from a skin complaint. Eczema.
What do you mean?
Eczema.
But this is worse.
Don't touch.
Thank you. Sorry.
But I love Peter Kay.
Oh, it's like if The Undertaker was a shit poster.
Just a doctor.
That's really him.
Get high to the TARDIS sound.
It was a hot summer night.
That's why I went downstairs.
We're able to build up a more detailed profile of the Doctor. I've allocated
This man means serious
tasks
business.
to each of you.
Is Linda another Torchwood?
What's the eczema?
Well, they're not as official, I suppose.
But they're kind of doing the same thing,
No,
but it's specifically about the Doctor as
No.
opposed to.
Victor Kennedy seems to be very serious about this.
Yeah.
Don't touch me in eczema.
Business, isn't it? Can I have a word with you in private, please?
Oh no.
Goodbye.
Nowadays, this has got them far more
Better get to work.
unsettling.
Well, because of, like, creeps.
Yeah, Weinstein.
Oh, yeah.
He's a Slovene in that body. trying to find
Why are you saying that? Because he's fat?
trying to find the
You
doctor.
fucking bigot.
What they are fat?
No, I know what you mean. Oh, look at his desk.
These methods
The hell at school?
Look at all those artifacts.
to the Doctor. Mr. Kennedy. But we did get lucky once. A police box. Newly arrived. This is newly arrived today. This is Twitch. Would you understand that?
Give me that letter, Harry Potter.
Give me pictures of Spider-Man, damn it.
Give me pictures of Spider-Man.
Get a ration and I can use this.
Use that cane on him and you'll get one hell of a smack off me. And then
Counts the Doctor's companion, the torturous files are strangely lacking.
Anyway, yeah.
The evidence corrupt. Some corrupt. And evidence, Elton.
Suppose that answers your questions then.
Don't make this personal. I don't like to be touched literally or metaphorically, thank you very much. I haven't got the time. Bleeding hearts, outside! Find me that girl. Go!
Oh,
Now! Move!
there's actual people I've met in real life that are like Victor Kennedy.
Yeah.
Streets to search a major capital city for an unknown girl, to hunt down that face in a seething metropolis of lost souls, to find that one girl.
It's a bit, he finds it straight away.
that's Rose Tyler.
Yeah.
House number 48. I'm Mother Jackie Tyler. Nice family. Bit odd.
It's a beautiful new day.
Hey!
Jackie!
Why'd he change outfit?
So there's a reason to go in the wash.
Ah.
Kennedy's classes covered basics of
To wash one shirt.
Oh, Jackie's flirting.
My name's Jackie.
Oh dear. I love that woman.
She's the best.
humorous device.
I'll tell you what, Elton. Here we are, complete strangers, and I'm flashing you my knickers.
Some subtle way to integrate yourself into the target's household.
Mind you, only down here because my washing machine's knackered. I don't suppose you're any good at fixing things, are you?
Who's the fuse? The machine.
Oh.
I used to have this little mate called Mickey. He did all that stuff. He's gone now. Bless him.
Well, if you need me, give us a call.
There it's
She's really well cast as Billy Piper's mum.
Oh yeah.
Seeing this apartment though just makes me miss Christopher Eccleston.
days.
Yeah, what when he's
My daughter, she's gone travelling.
Well, if I had you making a nice cup of tea like this, I wouldn't stray far from home.
You're a charmer. Say it again.
Magnificent. Oh, I could kiss you. Except I can't, of course. See, I think you've got pictures on my phone. That's amazing. You achieved steps 1 to 4 in the precise order. How did you manage it? Well, I had to work very plan of attack from each. Now go on, vamoose.
Vamoose.
And Delton,
Captain Kennedy.
keep infiltrating. You will do anything to get that information for anything.
You must find the ring.
Could I have a word with you privately?
Bro, he's eating them. Isn't he?
Oh, I can drop you.
You just don't like fat people, do you?
Nah, he is.
Not all. See you next week.
Well, I mean, there was a pork chop in this episode.
Ah. Ah, those
Look how
two.
overblown. All the doorways in this episode are so blown out by the light.
Yeah.
She's back then.
Must be hot weather.
And if you get your way, might there be more little kisses between the two of you?
I think there might.
I knew it.
Bring it now, let's not get excited. We'll see.
What was it needed doing? It's like that flat-twist genius.
It's a bit exciting, isn't it?
This dude's clueless as fuck.
I think all of Linda are.
Keep on blowing.
They're all a bit odd.
Station. Then you get the power surges still. There we go.
Here we are. A little reward for my favourite handyman.
Shouldn't be, I've got the car outside.
What, you gonna splash out on a taxi? Or what?
This is a children's show. Russell.
Cheers.
Look how full his one is.
Very nice.
Oh wait, it's the same.
So, French.
He's just a small.
She's really trying to intoxicate him.
Is it from Rose? I mean, is she in France?
My daughter won't be coming back tonight, just in case you're wondering. Close to ourselves.
Right. Nice music.
The Devo.
Yeah.
Oh, I think so. She takes you. Oh, honey, you must be rolling. All these sharks. Sorry.
Christ.
I'm not fine, it's okay.
Jackie, come
This
on.
is like almost assault.
It's it's harassment.
Bordering on it. Bordering on it.
It is harassment.
Then, ruined.
There I was.
Russell T. Soap Opera Davies.
Perfect infiltration.
God.
Jackie Tyler.
Fucking hell. Is this what you do, Jake, when you want to
No.
get some action?
Alright, be careful. Bye. That was my daughter.
Damn.
Oh, look at you.
Rose cock
I'm
blocking.
sorry. Anything. And I'll just go a bit mad.
It's really sad.
So that's what Russell does great about this, is it how it affects those around the companions who leave.
And obviously even people that aren't related either with this Slender
Mm.
group.
I'm sorry. You better go.
The ripple effect of the Doctor.
It's the butterfly effect.
You just feel bad for Jackie, you know?
Yeah.
That's when it struck me. Funny the things you think of with your shirt off. But that's when I realised what was really important.
He's right. I have some of the best thoughts I've ever had with
Yeah.
my shirt off.
I'm not even going to ask. Say yes.
Why does he look real familiar?
I don't know. He's got something about his face. It's very.
He
Yeah.
looks like
He looks British.
a whole bunch of people you
Yeah,
could
he's-
meet.
I think that's the point, though. He's meant.
Yeah.
He
Just-
actually kind of looks a little bit like. What's his face? He's in Love Actually. He was in.
There's a lot of people.
He
in
was
love-
one of the ones that
Yeah.
people thought were going to be the 13th Doctor.
Oh yes, Reese Marshall,
That's
Ah,
it.
right.
He looks
Yeah.
a bit like Reese Marshall,
He
but
does.
blonde. Yeah.
Chris
Sorry,
Marshall.
Chris Marshall. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, Chris Marshall.
Henry's pocket. And look what I found. A photograph of my daughter.
Linda.
It's not like that. I can explain.
Behind. Because it's hard. Is that I will never let her down. And I'll protect them both until the end of my life. So whatever you want, I'm warning you. Back off.
But Jackie, I
Oh.
want to meet him.
And leave me alone.
Oh.
For you, Ursula, you're coming with me. And we're going to the Golden Locust and we're going to have a Chinese.
What's that got to do with it?
I mean, you and me. Together. Having a meal.
Have you seen what's that? What's that? Is a British TV show? Is it The Untouchables?
Oh, the Undateables.
Oh, The Undateables. Yeah.
I didn't want to say that because I don't want to be mean-spirited, but yes.
Yeah.
you are correct, Jake.
This just reminds me of a conversation from that.
Yeah.
Mr. Skinner, are you coming? Not to the Chinese, if you don't mind. Just sort of walking out. I certainly am.
He's eating the mezzanine.
Team spirit.
Hey, he's a Slovene. I know it. I know it.
I'm not stopping. I just left my phone. Where's Mr. Smith?
He's gone to the toilet.
Why are you so stressed out?
I'm not.
Use the cup on the corner.
Very happy, Jake. Very happy.
Look at your hands.
What disgusting hands? Well, it's better than a Slovene. Oh. What the fuck?
That's Mr. Skinner. What have you done to him?
I've absorbed him.
I said you really don't want to know.
He's some sort of absorbathon. An absorberly. Absorber. Yes, I like.
Let them go.
Just think about the doctor. Oh, how will he taste? Oh, no, bitch, don't hit me. Look at me. I'm such a slow and clumsy beast. Please don't hit me.
Well then.
Just one touch. That's all it takes.
Much worse than eczema.
Goodbye, Ursula. Oh, it's quite gross, isn't it?
It's revolting.
Tastes like chicken.
I have a question.
That's what our face is like when we eat McDonald's with all the fucking oil in our body.
Yeah.
I like how her glasses were absorbed as well.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Her glasses.
He's kind enough to let her still be able to see, you know?
Yeah. Her glasses are like fused into her skin.
What? So fast.
Not slow and clumsy like he said. Come here, boy. Get in my belly.
What? This is so bizarre.
Join us.
Hmm.
Absorb with us, Jake. Blend into this couch.
Oh, it's the Doctor, and it's going to be a 2-parter. Maybe.
You upset my mum.
Hmm?
Is it me I'm seeing people? Is it me?
Not from Directorial Vitalis, are you?
No, I'm not the swine. I spit on them. I was born on the twin planet.
Really? What's the twin planet of Directorial Vitalis?
Clon.
I can't believe you predicted this, Jake.
That's
I cannot.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone predict this before. Ever.
There was even betrayal on this as well.
Betrayal, and he was related to Slovene. And he was eating them.
He'll die, Doctor.
Imagine having human heads in your body as a parasite.
Hmm.
Lindy, you know. Oh,
Ooh.
yuck.
Ugh.
Still has the glasses on.
Bye bye, Ocean. Hey, and he's going to become a companion as well. I predicted that too.
That's it. Almost. Because the doctor still had more to say. You don't remember, do you? There was a shadow in your house. A living shadow in the darkness. An elemental shade had escaped from the howling halls.
Ah.
I wasn't the type to say that. I'm sorry.
Maybe his mum was a book collector.
Maybe. Well, there's a bookshelf there.
Mother died.
Is that from the Rift? Oh.
No, it's just.
Well, the shade may have come from the rift, though. That's very
true.
possible.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he misses his mother.
It almost sounds like Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it does.
Bum, bum,
Almost
bum,
there.
bum, bum, bum.
This was a
A lot
yeah.
in one.
Things happen. And the most brilliant things. Sometimes, well, I can't tell the difference. They're all the same thing. They're just me. You know, Stephen King said once, he said, Sal said he could do one last thing with his magic wand. I can key into the absorption matrix and separate the last bit. Elton! Dr. Spade! Even then, after all that, the doctor saved me one last time. Here she is.
Could be worse. At least I'll never be peaceful. You'd be surprised.
It's a relationship of sorts. We manage. We've even got a bit of a love life.
Oh, let's hope.
Oh my god.
I love her. But the thing is,
Oh, there we go. He got it. He got the zoom.
but what I wanted, that's so much better.
Okay. So, Jake. Love and Monsters. Your thoughts?
Oh, I predicted that whole episode, eh? It was, yeah, I thought it was good. It was pretty funny. It was a different tone to
I'll just, before you go into your details, I just want to point out, just in case you're not sure, this is what you call a Dr. Light episode.
Yeah.
You have seen one of these before. You saw Blink.
Yeah.
That's another example. Occasionally, you get these kind of episodes. The reason why, I'll explain, is because originally there wasn't going to be a Christmas slot for this show.
Yeah.
But then the BBC managed to get it. So what that ended up doing was adding another episode to the series too, because originally if they weren't going to get the Christmas slot, Christmas Invasion would have been episode 1. But because there was an extra one, but you can't allocate that time to the main cast because it's an extra whole episode. So what they did was they made one that was Dr. Light, so it was only the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the majority of it, they don't appear. And Blink is another example. So if they hadn't got the Christmas slot, you wouldn't have gotten this, but you also, Blink wouldn't exist either.
Right.
And that's insane, because Blink is a famous bit of television.
Yeah.
It's like probably the most famous episode of Doctor Who, really, especially the new series. So that one thing changed the whole show. But yeah, that's what this kind of episode is.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, is that what you got to say?
Yeah.
All right. Should I go first or you?
It's up to you. I don't mind. I have things to say.
I know you do. I'm just thinking which one of us should go first, because
I guess I should go first because I think I generally more align with the general.
that's fair.
of the episodes.
Before you do that, I will give a little disclaimer to Jake. Okay.
Another one.
So, I'm not 100% sure on this. I'm sure someday we will find out. But based on my memory, because I've talked to Adam about Doctor Who for like the last 2 years, and obviously in that time we've discussed thousands and thousands of topics and whatnot, about episodes, characters, everything. I can't think of an episode from the entire show that Adam and I differ more on.
Right.
So we're quite split on this one. So we were really not sure how you'd feel about it. Now, to give a bit of perspective on why Adam said what he just said, this is a very unpopular episode. This is one of the most hated in the whole show, more than the Slovene ones.
Really?
Yeah, this is like, for most people, especially the casual audience, this is bottom 10.
Really?
But, however, it does have a cult following.
Yeah.
Much like Linda.
And I'm one of the ones that's in that cult.
Yeah.
Anyway, you give your thoughts.
Okay. Well, the thing is, I think there's some brilliant ideas in the episode. My issues come with two primary things. One, Elton doesn't have quite the sort of... Elton isn't a dynamic of enough of a character to carry a Dr. Light episode, if you know what I mean. I don't find him...
I don't know what you mean, but...
well, I mean, you've seen Blink, right? Well, Sally Sparrow in Blink.
Oh, that's fair.
She's a brilliant character who carries the whole episode, even though the Doctor's only in it for about 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
Whereas,
Sally Sparrow is unbelievable. She's a great character.
But wouldn't it be less funny if he was more dynamic?
It would have been less funny, but I still think, for me, the funniest parts of the episode were the lines usually coming from the Absorbal off himself. And, you know, little one-off lines. I don't find Elton a particularly amusing character. I just don't... I'm not endeared to him.
Yeah.
I don't dislike him per se. I just find him a bit bland. There's nothing that really captures my imagination about him. But more so, my issue with the episode is the structure. Now, I get that it's it's flashing back and flashing forward and stuff. And
Yeah,
there's
it's kind of like it's him retelling the story.
Yeah.
It's like past tense.
Yeah, it just leads itself to feel rushed because of all the beats of this episode. There are so many beats it has to get across. Him and what's her face falling in love.
Ursula?
Him and Ursula meeting,
Yeah.
falling in love. Blah 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 blah. Linda being formed, Linda becoming friends, Linda falling apart when Mr. What's his face comes up, and then his whole thing with Jackie, and then she finding out about Rose and Jackie's whole subplot, which I think is by far the best thing about the whole episode. Jackie is the only thing I unironically properly thoroughly enjoy about this episode, because it's not about her, but that little sort of 10-minute period gives us some great insight into her as a character, what she's like when she's by herself. Because now, even they mentioned that Mickey's gone, she's got no one there for her, really, that she's close to. And I find that really interesting, and how she sort of copes with that by sort of distracting herself with, the implication of sleeping with people and just distracting herself from life because she has nothing, really. It's quite sad, and I find that really interesting as a character beat. So I do like some of the episode, but I just find it so structurally rushed in parts and messy, and it just makes for an unpleasant viewing for me.
And
it's gross.
It is pretty gross.
But I don't mind grossness. Like, one of my favorite movies is The Fly, so I'm not bothered by body horror, really.
Yeah, but you've made comments many times before about how this episode makes you feel uncomfortable.
It's this, and it's not even just the grossness per se. There's just something about the way it is structured that unsettles me, and I can't put my finger on it. I like things to have, complications and be interweaved in interesting ways. I don't want all my narratives to just be A, B, C, D, E, F, But the way this one is structured, combined with the fact that I don't really get anything out of the lead character, leads it to be a very sort of dry, hollow experience for me, and I just don't get much out of it. Though there are little moments with Russell's writing that are saving grace, especially when it comes to the more human elements.
Right. That's actually a lot more kind than I expected you to say.
Yeah, well, I just, I want to be fair to it and say what
Right.
I liked, but it's just, other than the first time and once on DVD to rewatch it a few months ago, just to remind myself, I don't like watching this episode. Like, I would not pursue this episode to just watch it by myself. I have no interest in seeing it again.
Right. But I'm sure you can gather what I think of this episode.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I'm in the camp where I really like it as well.
Yeah. I have my fingers crossed that you would. Yeah. Considering that you liked Aliens of London, I was like, ooh, there's potential.
Can I talk about it?
Yeah,
Sure,
go ahead.
of
Go
course,
ahead.
yes.
It's your
So,
your reaction.
I know like structurally it's quite a weird way to structure something, but that was some of the most brilliant editing I've ever seen. Like the way, like a lot of it is like, there's so many setups and punchlines throughout the episode.
One of my favorite ones is when they cut to them playing music.
Yeah.
And also the ELO bits. Anything that's to do with music in this episode, I think is really
Yeah.
well structured.
I just thought it was like obviously it's a completely different tone to what we've seen before.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a couple of them have, like, comedy in Doctor Who hasn't got me yet, but this is the first time comedy in Doctor Who I've been like, I actually enjoyed finding this funny, whereas like the Slitheen one, I found it funny, but it wasn't like
I
wasn't.
think it's because it wasn't the focal point. There
Yeah.
were moments when you really liked it, like
There-
when there was the little.
There was
running
some
around.
there was some things in here that was like the kind of stupid, fucking ridiculous humor that I like,
Yeah.
and there's
Well, I think I said during the episode when we were watching, when I got to the Linda part, like, this reminds me of when we were at South Seas.
Yeah.
I literally mean that in the sense that when we were at film school, this was the kind of, I don't want to use a certain word because it's derogatory, but it's a certain kind of humor that we like.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, I enjoyed the structure. I thought it was different because as much as I like backstory, like I like the way everything else has been structured, where it's like threat, problem, figure out the threat, figure out the problem, solve. This was more like here's a person. Here's this person's life. Why should you care about this person? you shouldn't really care about this person. He's a bit of a dimwit, but you know, like, he's kind of funny. He's a little bit stupid. It's funny to watch him like fumble around and like figure out life, and then suddenly there's this fucking disgusting, like, absolutely foul, hilariously stupid thing with faces in its body. It's just like, I didn't know what I was watching at one point, and I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's funny because like the biggest complaint people have about this episode is they don't like the comedy. I feel like there's a
That's one of its stronger suits. I would even say that. I think that's one of its stronger
Yeah. So I feel like we've mentioned this many times on this channel. It's the comedy in general is the most subjective form of art.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to something like action or special effects, which is very easy to define universally.
Yeah.
With comedy, you have to. It requires you having life experience and, you know, knowledge, and also people are going through different walks of life to have a certain kind of taste of comedy.
Yeah. And that is why there will be two different camps on this episode, because of the type of comedy it is.
Yeah.
And I think also there is a lot to say about it and the way it's made. Like, it's not a traditional story of with characters and side characters. It's just it's like a detour. It's like you're playing a game, and then it's just like, oh, bonus level, and then it's like, well, it's over, and you don't have to care about it ever again.
Yeah. What I love about it, specifically, one of the things is the fact that this is something that Russell did when he became showrunner, that he wanted to do, that differentiates it from other eras of Doctor Who, is he makes it feel like there is worlds outside of the Doctor. So people on Earth have their own lives that are happening at the same time as when they're in time and space, and they are affected by their appearances. So, and interestingly, even though like a lot of people will look at it and say, well, the Absorbaloff is this big, you know, creature they're right, he is. But when I was watching the end of it, there's a line from Elton when he says about being touched by the Doctor, right? There's almost a metaphor of... So obviously the Absorbaloff physically absorbs people, right? But this whole episode with its characters, well, that's what I'm saying is it revolves around them being absorbed by the Doctor's life. That makes sense? Almost they're absorbed into the Doctor's life, and it affects them so drastically in the sense that, like Elton said, it's not the Doctor's fault, but many of them died because he was involved with them.
I can also take that line of thinking, and I think it goes a bit further than that. I think Linda represents, as you pointed out at the beginning of the episode, us, the viewer.
Yeah.
And specifically the fans, the those who, you know, nitpick details and get obsessive about things and, you know,
make sculptures and whatnot, paintings and art.
Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the episode isn't necessarily mean-spirited around it. It's just that how they get so consumed by this piece of media, or in this case, this man, this time traveler, and this incarnation of the Doctor, that there is a bit, there's a sort of a bit of a, there's obviously a metaphor that the Absorbaloff represents how these people within the world that they're talking about get absorbed into his life, but also beyond that, how the audience and the fans get absorbed within the show.
Yeah, and one thing I really like about what you just said is that it's interesting you say that about this Doctor, because this episode was made before any of David Tennant's episodes had broadcast, and retroactively after the series aired, this kind of thing that Linda were doing is exactly the kind of thing that people were doing revolving around the 10th Doctor. His Doctor has such a massive fan base of almost, like, some of them even obsessive fans that go to these lengths to form these groups and do these things. So in a lot of ways, this episode is almost a love letter to fans, even though it is obviously poking fun at them.
Well, because Russell himself is one of them. Yeah. That's the thing. Because I've seen that criticism lobbied against this episode before, where it's sort of like, well, it's very mean-spirited to fans in general. and it kind of is, but no more so than it is self-deprecating. In terms of, it's absolutely fine to love something and obsess with something, but just don't let it,
Yeah, I think that's the difference between Linda and Victor Kennedy.
Yeah.
Is that he's consumed by the Doctor, and obviously the sci-fi reason for that is he's the Absorbaloff, so he wants the Doctor's knowledge because it's more power. In terms of representing fans, there are fans that go too far and it becomes their entire life.
It's the kind of person who, like, you go to a convention and, like, it's the kind of person who will tell someone or a kid off for saying the wrong episode title when they mean something else. You'd be like, oh, you mustn't be a real fan, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of mentality, which, unfortunately, as I'm sure all the people watching this are aware, those kinds of people exist. But for the most part, the fandom's awesome.
For the most part,
awesome art. They create.
For the most part, the Doctor Who fandom is like the rest of Linda, a
Yeah.
bunch of like very
normal
quirky,
people.
weird people that are just nice and very
average,
average Joes, But they got a bit of a weird side to them.
And that's the interesting thing to me, and I kind of wish the episode lent more into that. I think part of my issue with this episode is, as I said, I do think there are some great ideas in it, but it's not focused.
Would you have preferred if it was longer?
Yes, the whole time I was thinking, I cannot believe I'm thinking this, but I wish it was a two-parter. Because then you could have formation of Linda, Victor Kennedy shows up, reveal that he's the Absorbaloff, and then the disintegration of that in the second half. Like, or even the reveal to the audience that he's the Absorbaloff, but not to the rest of Linda. So then in the second episode, they can unravel that. And there was just a lot more to play with than this episode allowed it to do.
Though you could argue that might be a risky move, making Love and Monsters a two-parter.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, but I just from my personal perspective, there wasn't enough leaning into the stuff that I really liked.
I think the more you would have added to the story, the more you would have convoluted it, and it's because it's still quite a like basic and not very dense idea.
No, yeah.
So like, I think the longer you play on that idea, the more you like sacrifice comedy to logic in a way.
Yeah, well, the thing about that is, I do find this episode funny. It is intended to be a comedy.
Yeah.
But I just, from a personal preference point of view,
Yeah.
it lent less into the comedy and had some of these genuinely interesting ideas where you could get quite dark and interesting with it.
Yeah.
I just feel like the episode, though it is funny and it succeeds, I think, at being a comedy,
Yeah.
some of these ideas are kind of wasted because there is so much more that could have been done with these principles, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not wasted potential because it still achieved its goal. But
If I will say one thing, because even though I do love this episode, I do have small little nitpicks with it.
yeah.
The one thing that on my last viewing, not today, but my last viewing, the one thing that I was a little bit disappointed by is the fact that I know that the reason why they had to do it this way was because it was kept a mystery till the end.
Yeah.
But I wish there was a little bit more development of his relationship with his mother.
Yes.
I would have preferred if there was a bit of that, because I feel like
It's kind of just like a it's just thrown in at the
Yeah.
end.
Well,
Like,
it feels like
he's lonely.
it feels like a cliff note. And the thing is, whilst it certainly is evident that it has an impact on him, I feel like that doesn't have an impact on us because we didn't know his mother.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's not really the most clear as day. The only like reference the only thing we know is that he lived in this house with his mum, and his mum's not around anymore, and the Doctor was in that house, and then it's just like then it's not mentioned again until the end of the episode. So it's like it could have been something cool that they had come back to throughout the episode to like be like, oh, this is why he's interested in the Doctor, because there's this unsolved mystery of why was he in his house when he was a little kid, and why is his mum gone now? Like
what did you do to my mum?
that would have been cool. I do agree that's something that, but there are so many fucking plot lines in this episode. It was like it's hard. It would have been hard to like tie that all together.
Yeah.
But I suppose, like Adam said, if it was longer, then you could have.
You know what they could have done, and the whole part with Jackie, they could have like likened shit together, like
Yeah, actually, you're right.
interweave it.
It could have been flashbacks to his mother when he was talking to Jackie.
Well,
or something
because
like
the thing is, she's talking about having an absent daughter. He could have brought up the fact that he grew up from 9 years old upward, or however old that he had an absent mother. And
That's a good
though,
point.
granted, because of the age difference, it's a bit of an Oedipus thing.
Yeah,
but,
that might be a little
but,
bit.
But this episode is already fucking gross.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
It's already.
It's not like it would really make a
Hey.
difference, but
Russell, hire me next time. I'll help you out.
yeah. You know, how him, Russell and Moffat did their own Target novels recently.
Yes,
So obviously, I can't remember who does the publishers those books. I can't remember which company, but they basically told him you have to do Rose because it's the one that's going to make the most money
Yeah.
because it's the first episode. And he's like, there's a whole bunch of other ones that I wanted to do because but if someone said to me, if there was one Target novel I would want him to write, it's this one. Imagine if Russell could expand on this episode in a Target novel and just do his thing.
Nah,
No?
it's wrapped. It's done.
I also think
There's no
I
need
think
to expand on
I
this dude's
think
life.
also the issue with that is a lot of the comedy that works so well in this episode is down to obviously the writing, the setup, and the punchline, but the way they've edited around
That's
it. As
true,
you said,
yeah.
like
That's a good
the whole
point.
thing with Murray Gold swelling music, building. I've got a fine rose in this. He goes into this incredibly descriptive sort of bohemian,
Though,
way of talking about London. And then suddenly, oh yes, that's Rose Tyler.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
it's-
Though, to counteract that, I would love to see how Russell would describe the Absorbaloff in a text.
Yeah, that would be funny.
It'll be interesting to see what
It'd be
kind
funny
of
to just
adjectives he'd use.
this episode as a written text would be funny. But I don't honestly. This is one of those episodes where I feel like this has got a start and it's got a finish, and it's got nothing more that you need in ever to be made from it ever again.
My thing with that is I think within the confines of the episode there are certain elements that could be expanded.
Yeah.
In terms
yeah.
of making it flow better, but I do agree that I don't ever want to see Elton again.
Nah.
I don't really need to know more about his mother. I just wish that we.
I don't
set
need to
that
know
up.
about his sexual relations with the fucking
Slab.
With the slab, yeah. Like, God, that was. I was like, please don't make that joke, please don't. And then it was made, and I was like, oh, for God's sake.
She's a favorite slab.
Now I've always wondered the logistics of this. Right. Okay. Is the back of her throat stone?
Look, no. Okay, let's go into. Come on. Nah. We're not even getting into that.
But no, from I don't mean in the sexual way, but in the in the science fiction universe.
Tarmac
Does
on
she
your
have-
foreskin.
Huh?
Fuck. How do you? I'm done.
He was
I don't want to talk about this.
Anyway, going back to something you were saying before, ignoring the brick fellatio, but you mentioned how you're not particularly endeared to Elton
Yes.
because you find him to be a bit surface level or whatever the word was.
It's just a bit. I get the point that he's supposed to be an average guy, but there's not enough there for me to latch into him as a human
Right.
being.
So for me, it might just me being one of those people that fills in blanks, because sometimes you end up doing that with stories. Especially one thing that I do when I watch Harry Potter films is I tend to have the books in my mind which fills in blanks,
Yeah.
which makes the story richer. So with Elton, with what the episode gives me, I tend to fill in extra bits in my head, and the reason why is because I feel like I can relate to Elton on a lot. Especially when I was younger, because the kind of humor that's in this episode, and you'll know this, Jake, is the kind of humor that I sort of harnessed, I suppose you could say, when I was in primary school and early college.
Yeah.
You remember what I was like then, and I feel like Elton almost feels like a reflection of myself in a way. So I find him to be an extremely relatable character, in the sense that I have this sort of deep interest in all these things, but especially when I was younger, I felt like I was a bit behind the well, I don't know what the word is, but I was very almost disconnected from logic, if that makes sense. And that's I feel Elton's almost in his own world a bit. And it almost feels like a lot of the Linda members are as well, but because Elton's the main character, you get more of an insight on him. But I find Elton to be very relatable in that sense, which is why I find him very easy to follow through the episode.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
About Elton?
Yeah.
Elton, like, I agree with you that, Adam, that Elton's a very shallow and like surface level character, and like he's not the most fucking interesting dude. He's a little bit of a weird fella, you know. He's off the cuff, but I kind of just found him like endearing to watch, because it was nice to watch someone who's just as clueless as I am about everything with Doctor Who. So for me it's different, I think, because me watching it, I'm like, oh, this dude's just as fucking confused as I am about all this shit. And then as more ridiculous as the episode got, I just found it funnier to think of this dude in this situation where he's running, like at the start of the episode, he's standing in this fucking abandoned warehouse thing. This weird ass predator looking motherfucker is behind a door. He gets splashed with some boiling water. Like think of that through this dude who's just like, oh yeah, I like ELO, and I like painting.
Spaceship that crashed outside my house and my window.
You know, like this dude's got like he's imaginative, so it would have just been like, whoa, and
I also, you did ask about the the Scooby-Doo bit.
Yes.
I've always seen that as him sort of hallucinating.
Well,
I didn't find that funny at all. Like that, I hate that kind of shit. But and like that was like the sour note of the episode for me. It's like fuck, why?
The thing is, for me, is it didn't. That joke is for kids.
Yeah.
Like obviously, there's nothing wrong with adults enjoying that joke, but I think the point of that was to endear the children, because they're like, okay, we've got to keep, there's some sort of momentum rolling. So it doesn't.
It's not likely that children would be endeared to soap opera, would they?
No, exactly. Well, it depends. I was a child, and I remember as a child, obviously the Absorber Off was my favorite fucking thing about this episode as a kid. But I did enjoy the Jackie bits because I was so endeared to Jackie.
But I think that might be because we already knew her.
No, absolutely it is.
Investment.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is. But I just remember.
Oh, this episode would not work anywhere as well if it was any earlier than it is. Like, if it was in series 1, I feel like it would be very jarring to get it that early, because this is a very not only self-referencing episode, but it's also one that relies on your investment in Jackie.
It would feel too far removed, because this one, it does feel like a Doctor Who episode, but it almost feels like a different TV show. Almost. Not quite. There's enough there to make it be like, okay, this is definitely 2006 era Doctor Who. But if it was in series 1, it would just be like, what?
I would say probably the closest episode in series 1 to this would probably be Boomtown.
Well, that's fantastic.
Well, I love both, but in terms of the feeling like a certain kind of episode, if that makes sense. It's very domestic, though Boomtown is a much more focused central story on the Doctor. It's very much the Doctor in a domestic situation, whereas this one is a bunch of strangers in a domestic situation surrounding the Doctor's movements.
100%.
Yeah.
Bit of a friendly episode, isn't it? No, not really.
It's interesting that you say that, because it is quite domestic, and it's sort of very earthly, because it's obviously it's all based on Earth. But the interesting thing is, it's probably one of the more alienating episodes. If this was your first episode of Doctor Who, you would not want to watch more.
Well, it depends what kind of.
Debatable.
I just feel like this would
Depends who you are, really.
Yeah, but I for the general.
I'm sure there's someone that has.
If you watch this and you like this and you watch the rest of Doctor Who, you wouldn't like the rest of Doctor Who.
Possibly.
Because you compare this to just the last episode where he met
Satan Pit.
the devil, maybe.
Yeah.
And that one's
it's completely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you would have watched this and you'd be like, oh fuck, this show's like fucking Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And then you watch Satan Pit, you're like, nah.
Yeah.
Nah, this is nah.
Or even Tooth and Claw with the werewolf and
Yeah.
all that. Or it's just.
Well, I mean, it's one of those shows that has all kind of flavors.
I need to make some tea.
Yeah, go
Alright.
for it.
You guys keep talking. I'll just like.
Okay, sure. Well, whilst you're doing that, I will. I was gonna go on to the sort of side characters for a bit. I kind of like how
Yeah.
there's something about the actress who plays Ursula that, to me, feels right for this episode.
She seems like the most real of all the Linda characters. Because the Skinner, we kind of know, but he doesn't get much to do, so we don't like, he feels normal, but like he feels real, like a real person, but we don't really get to know him. But she feels like someone you could easily meet at a Doctor Who convention.
Well, I would say the same about Bliss, but she gets killed early, so you don't really get
that's
more than that.
Same thing with same
Also, I'm pretty sure the order of who got killed was designed by how much more of these characters do we need to tell their story? Because Bliss, it's like, oh, she makes sculptures and she's a bit quirky, so we'll get rid of her first.
Yeah.
Because
then the other two, well, the other four, they all split off in their own potential relationships.
Because then there was obviously the Skinner and his, I don't know what her name was, but there was that. But yeah. God, I'm lost for words. I think we've said a lot.
Yeah. Also, that framing right there is very indicative of the channel over the last year.
Unfortunately. Okay, I don't want to get onto the Absorbolith without him here.
No,
He's important. I'm just going to look at the list again. I don't want to miss any of this.
No.
Jake, you're important. Why are you... How long are you going to be? How long are you going to be? Sweet as. Shit. Oh my goodness.
Caught that. Caught it.
God, this is appropriate for a Love and Monsters review. Just everything's gone on. They can't see you dancing. Yes, very serious business, but do not touch me, the eczema. Jake, do you have anything further to say about the Linda group? Like the side characters, like Ursula and Skinner and all that?
Oh yeah, I got fucking heaps.
Okay, you go.
I found them pretty funny because it's like it was like one of those. Well, you get it in like movies and shit a lot, but it's one of those groups that's like the misfits that come together, like the and it's like the in-betweeners in a way, you know, like that kind of that group comedy and stuff like that.
Except I would say the difference is that with the in-betweeners, they seem a bit more self-aware.
Yeah, but what I'm getting.
Whereas with these guys, they don't realize they're being.
Yeah, well, I'm not getting at that though. I'm getting at the fact that it's relatable because everyone's a little bit quirky and everyone's a little bit different.
They're kind of like social outcasts who find each other through their mutual interests.
Which is
Through obsession.
Which is like what it was at South Seas.
Yeah.
A lot of people at South Seas were kind of social outcasts brought together, which sort of created this big.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna eat on camera.
It's all right. Adam did it last time. It's almost like this big sort of rainbow of personality. If that makes sense. In the sense that they're all so different. Do you have anything else to say? Considering you said you have lots to say about them.
No, but that was a lot for me.
Okay. Yeah, your energy level's low. Now,
I mean, they were all funny in their own way, but
yeah.
as a group, that's what I.
Yeah. Now, the next character we're going to split into two. So we'll start with Victor Kennedy first.
Okay.
I suppose you're eating, so I'll start. I love. Oh, that's the Absorblock, but we'll go Victor Kennedy first. I love Victor Kennedy. I love the fact that his entry, he literally, and I know this is a very, very minor, specific thing that only fans of like wrestling would know, but his entrance in the episode is literally the Undertaker's entrance, and it's revealed, and he's this like neckbeard geek with this like cane that you'd buy at like Look Sharp, and he's got like
it's like if the Paul Bearer did the Undertaker.
Yeah, it's so funny, and I just find it so amusing that he's got this desk with all these artifacts on it that he's collected because he's obsessed with finding the Doctor, because obviously he wants to absorb him to get all his knowledge and information, and just the way he obsesses over him, and just I love Peter Kay as a comedian as well, like the eczema. I could kiss you, but I can't. The eczema. Love him. What did you say anything about Victor Kennedy yet, or?
I like Victor Kennedy because Peter Kay he's the best. Well, Jackie is the best thing about the episode, but Peter Kay is the funniest. Peter Kay, because he is a genuinely very funny man, you can tell he's just having a ball, being so campy, and him just sort of like the eczema and all that is genuinely funny. So I do like him.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a backstage. There was like behind the scenes. I think it was Doctor Who Confidential. Yeah. He's wearing the Absorbaloff costume, right? He's like doing the interview in the green costume. And they like ask him questions, and at the end he's like, "Right, I'm about to get changed into my costume now." Oh dear. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Victor Kennedy?
Sorry. Yeah, he was pretty funny. There's the whole entrance and stuff. I mean, I called he was a Slovene at the start. I got pretty close. But yeah, it was pretty obvious that he was like not good. Whatever. But
rubs you the wrong way. I mean, the dark lighting was very suggestive.
Yeah. No, it was pretty funny, and then he like became like the principal of Linda, like became a school teacher and stuff like that. He was a great character. I really did enjoy the short-lived time we had with him. Yeah.
And then of course he transforms into the Absorbaloff. Now the biggest piece of trivia from this episode. I'm very interested to hear what your reaction to this is. So, because obviously the slot was open for an extra episode, what Russell T Davies, I think it was him and maybe some of the other producers as well, Phil Collinson, all that the team decided to do, was they had a competition for children where they got they basically put it out and said, hey, all the children of the UK, obviously Series 1's aired by now, and they've realised that it's a very popular show, especially with kids, like it's big. They said, hey, children of the UK, we're going to have a competition for you to design a Doctor Who monster, and the winner will get it in the episode. So there was an 8-year-old out there that designed that monster. Something so filthy and disgusting like that. I could not possibly have thought of something that creative when I was 8. And funnily enough, he's now grown up. Like, he's our age, and he has a YouTube channel. So there you go. I haven't talked to him, but I think I made comments on his video maybe once or twice. But I think that's so cool. The fact that a kid got to get a monster they designed in an episode of Doctor Who. Like, I would be over the moon if that happened.
As long as we do it more, or at least again, because I think because children's imagination is so uninhibited, that they can come up with such creative things, and if you present that thing to a really clever writer, they can
I think it's so admirable that Russell T Davies said, you know what, I'm gonna write an episode around a character that's designed by a child. Like that's really cool, I reckon. But yeah, your thoughts on the Absorbaloff?
Yeah, it was pretty gross. Not that gross, but like
it's meant to be.
Yeah.
I think Russell looked at that drawing and said, I'm gonna make this the most disgusting thing you've ever seen in your life.
It was like
he went all the way with it.
It was the ultimate punchline as well, really, to be honest. Like, it was quite funny.
It's interesting though, because most people say that that's what makes the episode bad, is that that's the punchline.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Right, the Absorbaloff is amazing. It reminds me, there's a scene in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, where they're meeting Freddy Krueger in some sort of purgatory, hell, dreamscape thing. And they're like, what did you do to the other kids that he's murdered? And he cuts open his green and red jersey and opens it up, and there's the faces of all the children he's killed in the film on his chest, and they're all breathing and screaming, and you can see their teeth. And it's gross, but I think the Absorbaloff is grosser than that. because in Freddy Krueger it's quite flat, like you can see their eyeballs. It's a gruesome image, but like it's it's just on his chest and it's on his torso. But whereas with the Absorbaloff, it's all around him, and like there's the older faces that are worn down, and the idea, yeah, the idea that the fresher the face is, the fuller it is, but over time it deflates. Fucked, and that's great. I love the grossness of the Absorbaloff.
Yeah, it's funny because it isn't, even though like the Absorbaloff is quite a big point, it isn't actually that much to say because it can be summed up in did you like it or not, really. I think.
Well, yeah, it's not really the most like what did it do? Fucking suck some people up, and then was like, oh, I'm actually faster than you think, and then died.
What planet are you from? Clom.
Yeah, that was quite funny. It was like he was just trying to prove himself, and that was it.
I think it's brilliant that Russell saw the drawing of the green monster and thought that's related to the Slovene. Yeah, this is definitely. And I'm just can't believe that you predicted that it would be Slovene. That is, you are a magnificent reactor, Jake.
You're getting better at noticing the patterns.
It was the same thing, it's fat people.
I think it's because most people have like a certain set of. Don't get offended. Most people have like a certain set of like, I suppose, manners in their mind that they go into things like, oh, I'm watching an official broadcast of TV, therefore things have to be in a certain, standard of, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. Or they legitimately do have those standards themselves. Whereas we're just like, what is the best and most funny possible thing this could be, like legitimately, without thinking about who gives a fuck what people think. Yeah. And we're like, well, he's fat and evil, so he must be a Slovene. Yeah. Yeah. I suppose this kind of people watching this who hate this kind of humor because they think it's like mean or abusive, they might judge us for it.
No. I don't. The thing is, though,
I'm just drawing parallels. That's all I'm doing.
Him being a villain is not mean-spirited. It's because it's Peter Kay. He's just, he's a portly gentleman, but he was absolutely right for the role because he's fucking hilarious. And I just think it's cool. I just think it's cool that you observed these things, which I'm sure Russell was aware of.
And if you think that Russell doesn't like fat people, you're wrong because Russell's a big boy. He's not like...
He's also very tall.
He's very tall.
I mean, you can be fat and not like fat people.
Well, that's true, but I don't think that's what it means. He's saying he finds it funny. No. It's obviously a very childish kind of humor, but obviously, there is no...
I don't really think it has anything to do with him being fat. No. I just said that because to me that's funny because I'm a cunt. But I was also drawing a parallel to something I'd already experienced through Doctor Who. So it's like
you're thinking along the lines, and also because Russell wrote the Slovene episode as well.
Yeah.
There's just that parallel.
Yeah. Moving on. Yeah. The David Tennant cocaine meter. Obviously, he wasn't in this episode.
He was sober.
Definitely sober because obviously he wasn't in it. He didn't have enough capacity to build it up to that point. Two things I'm going to say about the Doctor. Firstly, love his sideburns. He's gotten very thick sideburns in this one, grown it out a bit. Secondly, we get to the end of the episode where structurally you're like, this is where the Doctor saves the day. And he's like, nah. Yeah. Well, I like that he just walked out the TARDIS and was like, nah, probably not. Like, there is actually an episode where the Doctor's like, maybe I'll just give this one a miss. Yeah. Even though you could argue that that's like, what the fuck? That's very out of character. For me anyway, from how I view the 10th Doctor, in the moment, whilst obviously he did know that he didn't need to help him because, he obviously knew that the bloody explosion in the cane and obviously, very plot divisive, but he obviously knew that was coming. But I like the fact that he had this attitude of, I'm, sort of, you may think I'm sweet and kind, but doesn't mean I'm nice. There's a nice little detail that I feel like really outlines like we said in the previous review, the arrogance of the 10th Doctor. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, not really in there for long. It is weird. I don't know. At the start, it was funny to be in that situation of like you're walking in on the Doctor and in a weird situation, and then the whole fucking Scooby-Doo thing. But then at the end, I guess it was more about him like knowing that humans are strong enough to do it themselves or something like that. Yeah.
Don't turn. That's a spade.
Yeah.
Got anything to say?
Just more of this idea that even though he did save the day, just planting this idea that he is a changed man. The Time War has affected him to the point where his, no second chances. That's sort of the mission statement of series 2. Even though he's the romantic lead, there's this sort of sinister side to him, and it's just more building up to that because he's only on screen for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. And then Rose, who obviously in terms of the plot, Elterman's looking for her briefly, but she doesn't really appear that much. She's very minor. Like she has like a couple of lines. All I've got to say on it is, I think the sort of motive she has of you upset my mum and then the bit of sympathy at the end makes sense. I just feel like maybe it's a little bit too sharp of a turn. Her transitioning from you upset my mum to like hugging him and feeling sympathy for him. I feel like there's something in the execution I feel like could have been done a little bit better to just make that switch feel a bit more natural. But apart from that, it's fine for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like it was just. I mean, I can't really say much about them because they were there for like 2 lines.
Exactly.
And so it's like
it's just the main characters of the series, so I just wanted to add them in.
Yeah, same. Obviously, she's a pivotal plot point of the episode, but she's not in it much. Billie Piper gives a good performance, but I don't really have much to say.
Yeah. The only other real character to talk about is Jackie, who you've already gone into. I absolutely agree. I love Jackie. Camille Kaduri is the perfect casting choice for her, and just everything to do with her, whilst I can see that why someone would find the humour a bit too much, because it's very presumptuous and quite, it's very sexual in some points. Personally, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I found it pretty funny, like that whole, it was, the funniest stuff I found was the step one, like, and then she,
we did at the
and then she does the step, that was,
I think that
was a good combination of like making Elton seem, like more relatable, like, whereas like you're just,
Realizing that she's odd as well.
well, no, you're just realizing how clueless you can be sometimes in situations like that, where it's like how someone can be so suggestive, but you're just like, what the frick?
But one other thing I love about that is, within the plot, on paper, without having seen it, if you just look at the structure of the plot just within the laundromat scene, you were like just a critical script viewer, you would think, oh, this character is providing, what's the word? Convenient information to progress the story.
Yeah.
But because it's Jackie flirting with him, it's so funny. And the fact that he's thinking about, like, I need to do this, and then she answers the question for him, it's hilarious.
And also because it's a slight piss take of that trope. Of that sort of way of getting.
Well, in a lot of ways,
across.
Love of Monsters is a piss take of a lot of things.
Exactly. So that's why I think it works, because you wouldn't want to rely on that joke too much, because then that joke itself becomes a trope. But because it's only really there that one time in the episode, it works and it's funny. So it's easy.
Yeah. And the only thing we really have to say left is sort of about the plot. I suppose it does have a lot of very, the whole thing of the faces being able to expand his body and also breaking the cane is very indicative of, the kind of muckany plot devices you get. But I feel like with an episode like this, that's kind of the point. Like, it's meant to be making fun of Magic Saves the Day.
Yeah.
That's how I've always felt about it.
Sonic Screwdriver a magic wand.
Exactly. So I feel like almost Russell T is parodying those kind of endings with this one, which is why I really appreciate it. Have you anything to add on that?
Yeah. Nah, I mean, yeah, the plot was very linear in a way, I guess. But the plot was just someone's life, really. So it was more like the intercutting and everything was definitely like helped make it seem more dynamic. But yeah, it was more a linear plot than I think we've got in other episodes so far.
Right, are we ready to move on to the YouTube clip?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so earlier this year, well, I suppose for the viewers not on Patreon, it would have been a year ago, we reviewed a Doctor Who story called The Creature from the Pit, which is an infamous Classic Who story. Very similar to this one, quite disliked, but both Adam and I really liked it. It's great. But there is one scene in it that is, well, you'll see. But in terms of relating to this episode, there's a kind of, it has a very similar style of comedy, I suppose you could say. Is that
Sort
accurate?
of, but I don't know how.
It's not as intense. It's not as on the nose, but
I have
obviously.
a thing about it that I think happened, but we'll talk about that after.
all right. But yeah, we're watching a clip from The Creature from the Pit.
Is this the music in the episode?
No.
Okay, Okay, good. Yeah, what?
What do you think of that?
Been violated.
So, for a bit of context, the Doctor's trying to figure out how this creature communicates.
Yeah.
So he's like, "How do you
So
communicate?"
it kisses its tip.
Well, yeah.
Yes, I feel like him.
So that is the equivalent of the pavement slab for Classic Who.
I feel like the thing about that is that was an off the cuff thing from Tom Baker.
Right.
I feel like it was improvised, because I think they were supposed to like talk to it, but him fully putting his head down and kissing it, I think was a Tom Bakerism.
Yeah. So, off that, one point I'm going to make is, I feel like there are some people out there, actually more than some, I think a lot of people out there, that will hate an entire story for one bad moment.
Yeah.
That's an example of that. When someone says The Creature from the Pit, they're like, "Oh, is that the one where Tom Baker sucks off the big green penis?" Yeah. Ooh. Or Aliens of London, is that the one with the farting green people, or the farting fat green people? Or is it Love and Monsters? Is that the one with the Absorbaloff and the pavement slab blowjob? Yeah. I feel like that kind of sharp bit of comedy for someone who really, really doesn't like that sort of thing can really upset an entire story, apparently. Yeah. Whereas for me, like when we watched The Creature from the Pit, we were like, obviously we knew it was going to happen, so we were building up to it, and we're like, "Oh shit, he did it." But the thing is, the rest of the story is great, so it doesn't matter to us. Like, it's just one stupid little moment.
Yeah, and it's not something that breaks the story in terms of character motivation or anything like that, which completely undermines things that have happened before or happen after. It's just a moment which is off the cuff and small and a bit weird, but it doesn't actually affect the story, which is why it doesn't bother us, because it, as the whole picture, it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. And I also think the production team realized, like, when they got on set that it looked like a big green cock, so they're like, "Why don't we just make it part of the episode?" Yeah. Just depends on how vulgar your taste is, I suppose. Right. So, we've kind of gone through it pretty much, but like Russell T, I feel like Love and Monsters really it really does represent his style of writing. Soap opera, very over the top, hammy villains, a lot of, quite intense comedy, I would say. That's the word I would use. Yeah. And it's metatextual. the humor is very like you have to be of a certain taste to like it.
Yeah.
It's all of the things that make Davies' era separate from the rest in one episode, I feel, which is probably why it turns off some other fans, if that makes sense. So how do you feel about Russell T's writing?
I thought it was pretty good, you know, like, I mean, it's not my favorite type of humor, and it's not my favorite type of writing and like all that, but I still feel like it's what he is most comfortable doing, and you can tell that just because of how like
He feels very confident.
how natural it came across
Yeah.
through like the direction and the script, and you know, like the way things were conveyed like through the characters and the plot lines and everything. Like it just felt like something that Russell knew what he was doing. Like it wasn't like an uncomfortable story.
Why don't you transition into the direction as well? How do you feel about the direction?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, some of the, like the shots and like the I didn't particularly like the style of the episode.
Was it too domestic for you?
No, it just was not clean. Like it just didn't feel clean. It was just a bit grubby.
To be
and
fair, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that this makes it a good thing, but obviously, this is a low-budget episode. This is a filler.
yeah,
It's not. It's not given a big backing. Not like something like the Satan Pit, which has millions of dollars thrown
Yeah.
at it. Well, not millions, but you know.
well, that's probably why I didn't really like it that much then. In that sense.
And also the other thing about the direction is I found there were a lot of isolated shots which were really cool. Like that first one when Elton stumbles across the TARDIS and there's just this long side tracking shot with things like pieces of plastic. But combined with the frenetic editing, which
Yeah.
works for the comedy, the direction kind of got lost a
Yeah,
little bit.
I feel like because obviously there's little bits in there. Like I love the whole direction of his Skype camera or whatever it is, like his little whatever he's doing. I like all that stuff, and there's, you know, obviously it's very cheap, like the way it looks, but and also the entrance of Victor Kennedy as well.
Yeah, that's
And just the way that the direction teases the absorber off, I think that I like that too. But the main thing for me is that whilst the direction is a little bit stale, I feel like because of that, the editing, like the way it's edited, it makes up for it for me.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel static with the direction because of how well it's edited. That's how I'd feel.
Yeah.
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 Cool.
Yeah, I like the direction. I just feel that it's a bit incongruous with the editing is all.
Yeah. In terms of Murray Gold, he recycled a lot from Boomtown
Right.
in this episode. It's a lot of recycled stuff, but I suppose the main focus of the music is more around ELO. It's obviously Mr. Blue Sky, and I think there's another track in there as well. And I like the fact that they sort of use that song to connect Elton with the audience. I don't know. There's definitely a connection to music this episode has, because obviously Elton John,
Yeah.
and then there's ELO, and then Linda have a little band where they auto-tune their voice. And
I wonder if they ever considered, and probably too on the nose, because they only had 2 seconds of Elton John, which is a bit of editing that I did like. But it may have been because the royalties were way too expensive. But I do wonder if they ever considered using, like, Rocket Man, purely because, you know, it's got that science fiction-y thing, and it's Elton
It
John.
would have just cost way too much.
Yeah. It also wouldn't have fit with the, because Mr. Blue Sky is such a chipper and upbeat, it's a more up-tempo song.
I feel like Mr. Blue Sky really fits Elton and Linda a lot, especially Elton though. Like, just works for that character for me. I'm always asking myself, like, is Russell T Davies a fan of pro wrestling? Because there's so many parallels in the sense that, like, there's entrances and there's theme music, and it's very.
I guess.
I don't know.
But maybe it's hard to say.
I don't know. It just seems like it. Maybe. Who knows? Do you have any other thoughts on the music of Love Monsters?
Nah, it wasn't like too forefront. Except the ELO stuff was, but you know, yeah.
A lot of it was recycled, sampled stuff that Murray Gold's done before that he used to sort of fit the scenes, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like when they were walking away from the building and the Absorbaloff was obviously eating them, like it was like shh, like a little bit of sound to amplify the scene, I suppose. But yeah, I won't highlight any Money Gold tracks really, because there wasn't anything too special. So are we ready for
Trivia? Are we?
That was weak.
Are we ready? Are we ready for it?
Yes, we are. I'm asking, are we? And you're about to say it.
Are we ready for trivia?
Yes.
Yes, but what you have to say it.
I'm asking you this time.
Well, I'm ready. Are you ready?
What is it that we're ready for?
Are we ready for trivia? I'm asking you guys. Are we
You've
ready?
got to come in strong, Jake.
Trivia.
Oh. Yes.
All right, trivia.
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously I already mentioned the kid who made the Absorbaloff. That's the big trivia point. But beyond that...
Yep.
Oh, actually, no, before we get to that, fuck, I've messed up the review.
Oh, no.
Historical and reception. Well, I kind of did blab on it, but it has extremely mixed reviews. A very controversial episode that got people talking.
4 viewers.
Everyone remembers Love and Monsters, and you'll always get the two answers: either the worst television I've ever seen, or that was really great until the end, is what you usually get. Some praise the complexities of the script, others felt it was a parody and strayed into offensive humour. Nick Setchfield of SFX rated the episode 4.5 out of 5, noting how it finally gives Doctor Who a whole new vocabulary as a TV program. He wrote, "This may be Russell T Davies' smartest, funniest script. It's certainly the warmest, and somehow it feels like the most personal." While Setchfield was not a fan of Kay, he found his performance in this episode funny. He must not be a fan of Kay outside of it.
Yeah, like Phoenix Nights and all that.
Yeah. IGN's Arsan Hake gave the episode a 9.5 out of 10. Particularly praising the dialogue. However, he felt that some of the sadder aspects seemed out of place in what should be a purely lighthearted comedic episode. Slant Magazine reviewer Ross Rudiger was positive, saying that there's no reason this series can't do something quirky and beautiful when an inspired mind conjures up such a scenario. Rudiger commented out on the truth of meeting other fans on the internet and praised the depth of Jackie's character. Lots say it was nice to get a break from the world saving. Arnold T. Blumberg of Now Playing gave the episode a grade of D-. He was positive towards the first half hour, which he describes as a touching little tale with interesting characters, but called the final 10 minutes juvenile attack on the audience's intelligence and emotions that ruined the episode with a laughable monster and offensive humour at exactly the wrong moment. The scene where Elton says he and Ursula have a bit of love life was criticised by some commentators, who felt that the resultant implication of having oral sex with a paving slab was unsuitable for Doctor Who's large family audience. Others, however, dismissed this dialogue as a harmless joke that children would not understand.
Do you think children would not understand that?
I understood it as a kid.
I think I would understand it as well.
I didn't understand it at first, but then my dad laughed at it, and I was like, "Oh, that's what it is."
Right.
Well, I just because I grew up, like being raised as a cinephile, so like love life I knew was code.
What does
for
that
sex.
word mean?
Cinephile, someone who is,
Watches a lot of cinema.
yeah, someone who.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you said something else, like a word starting with a Z, like xenophile.
Oh right. No, but yeah. So I just knew that
Yeah,
love life was a.
It's all over cinema,
yeah.
especially modern cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So this was filmed at the same time as Impossible Planet Satan Pit.
Yeah.
Davies was inspired by the Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode The Zeppo and Star Trek The Next Generation episode Lower Decks. Have you seen either of those?
Lower Decks is fucking great. Because basically what it is about like the cadets and the ensigns, like the lowest ranking people who, we see the usual crew from the perspective of younger and more inexperienced characters, and how in the professional environment our usual characters can be kind of dicks. And it's a really great episode. As for the Buffy one, I don't remember that one.
The Zeppo.
I don't remember.
Okay. both of which focused on atypical characters. Davies described the episode, it's an experimental script, not so experimental that people will run away screaming. Well, they did, but because you can experiment too much, people still want a bit of monster and a bit of thrill and a bit of the Doctor, so it still delivers as normal Doctor Who, but just as you think you know everything this program can do, this puts a little bit of spin on it. The director, Dan Zeff, is a BAFTA award-winning TV director. He worked on Inside Number 9, Siblings, and Ice Cream Girls, and the film Hattie.
Inside Number 9 is one of the best TV shows I've ever seen.
Director Dan Zeff said that the tone the production team wished to capture, working with an inspirational design team, we wanted to emphasize a melancholy feel and an emptiness in the world around our characters, big urban spaces that once may have been full of life but now lay abandoned, rusting, and decayed. Amidst this, Elton and his fragile group of friends would almost feel cast adrift, increasingly vulnerable, as they are led astray by the sinister Victor Kennedy. The Absorbaloff is from Clom.
Yep.
The working title for this episode was I Love the Doctor. It was created as a comic strip. Interesting. This episode contains references to each of the first 4 series story arcs. Oh yes, so it has Bad Wolf, because Bad Wolf virus. It has Torchwood. And it has 2 others. But I can't tell you what those are yet. One of them is in a newspaper. The series 3 one is in a newspaper.
Fucking hell, I never saw that.
Yep.
Fuck.
Yeah, and then...
Fuck.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a reference to the series 4 one as well.
Yeah,
But we'll...
Well, yes, I think I know what it is because... Yes, yeah.
But I think that's quite clever. This one episode references the first 4 series of Doctor Who's arcs.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Yeah. But think about that. Davies was planning so far in ahead that the series 3 arc has already appeared.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. Should I tell him what it was or no?
The series 3 arc.
Well, the name, the thing that appears.
Let me.
No.
Let me figure
Let
it
it
out.
happen naturally.
Okay.
Because there's enough of that in series 3 itself where you can point it out because it's more prominent.
Okay. But when you figure it out, eventually, when we get to series 3, if you figure out what the arc is, I will reference back to Love and Monsters and tell you where it was. In the episode commentary, Russell T Davies notes that in an early draft, Elton had been a witness to more events in history, specifically incidents in Classic Who. In this draft, Elton's 3rd birthday was evacuated because of the Shoreditch incident. His mother was killed by a plastic daffodil, and Elton witnessed the Loch Ness Monster rising from the Thames. Those are references to Terror of the Ortons and Terror of the Zygons, I think. Davies had also considered making the viewpoint of a character story a woman. A sequence where the Doctor and Rose chased the Hoyks through a corridor lined with passageways ended up being completely disorientated. Mirrors a running gag popularized by Scooby-Doo. When Victor Kennedy makes his introduction walking off from the elevator and introducing himself, a female crew member is clearly visible in the doorway behind his right shoulder as the lights come on. But we were too distracted by his presence. Kennedy mentions that the Bad Wolf virus affected the Torchwood files. The Ninth Doctor gave the Bad Wolf virus to Mickey Smith in World War III. The Hoyks was improvised out of bits and pieces by the designers had lying around because they were originally supposed to create the Absorbaloff, the primary monster in the episode. The director's only request was lots of drool. Additionally, the Hoyks was not named until after filming. They needed a name for the credits. That's very Doctor Who, just a bunch of bits stuck together. Both David Tennant and Shirley Henderson, who played Ursula, appeared in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire as Barty Crouch Jr. and Moaning Myrtle. Funnily enough, in this series we also got Roger Lowe Pack, who played Barty Crouch Sr., who was John Lumick in the Sidemen 2-parter.
Yeah.
Harry Potter. It is implied throughout the episode that Elton is considerably younger than Jackie. In reality, the actors are only a year apart. He's much older than he seems. Linda was an obvious parody of Doctor Who fandom. Peter Kay cited the episode as the biggest regret of his career. He recalled, "I loved making it. When I saw it, I thought, oh my god, I'm a big green lizard running around Cardiff. Is that it?" Oh, I like it. The very first scene of the episode when Elton sees the TARDIS near the warehouses was originally supposed to be shot at the dockside. However, due to the large shipment of steel cables, that location fell through at the last minute. Peter Kay was originally offered the role of Elton Pope, so the guy who played the Absorbaloff was originally offered the role of Elton. Right. He felt the UFO spotter type was too similar to his character on Coronation Street and much preferred to play the baddie. I haven't seen Coro that much, haven't seen him in it, so don't know. Peter Kay was cast after he had written a lengthy letter of praise to the production office upon the conclusion of the first season. That actually makes a lot of sense, though, because obviously this episode is about fans, right? He got the role because he was a fan of Series 1. I think that's quite interesting how that works. There is an object on a table that appears in the next episode. Oh, I don't know what object that is. I'll be looking for it.
I have a feeling I know what it is. I think it might be the globe on his disc. Maybe? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Bella Imberg, who played... Oh, we had that before, actually. There was something in End of the World that appeared in another story as well. I think it was... the Slovene egg. So when Margaret was turned into an egg, that egg was in End of the World as a prop. Bella Imberg, who plays Mrs. Kroot, had previously appeared in the third Doctor episodes, The Silurians and The TIE Warrior. Can't remember which characters she were. I've seen those stories recently. Okay. The acronym Linda was previously used on Why Don't You Switch Off Your Television Set and Go Do Something Less Boring Instead. Apparently that's the name of the TV show. Which featured the Liverpool Investigation and Detective Agency. Russell T Davies worked on the series for some years. The Absorbaloff was supposed to be about 7 feet tall. So apparently when the kid turned up on set, he was slightly disappointed because it wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been very difficult to get right. Victor Kennedy was based on Ian Levine. You know who that is? He's a Doctor Who fanboy, who he's known for collecting a few lost episodes,
Right.
but he's extremely judgmental of the BBC. Like he's quite a disliked person.
Right.
But apparently Victor Kennedy is meant to be somewhat of a parody of Ian Levine, because Ian Levine's an obsessive Doctor Who fan, the same way Victor Kennedy is in the episode. There are conflicting accounts of William Grantham, that's the name of the kid. There are conflicting accounts on his reception towards the televised presentation of the Absorbaloff. Phil Collins and the producer attested that in the episode's commentary that Grantham was disappointed by the monster's human-sized depiction, having intended it to be the size of a double-decker bus. However, Grantham stated in the documentary Who Peter Partners in Time that he enjoyed the Absorbaloff's presentation. Andrew Pixley's notes for the story in DWMSC 14, published in 2006, provided a middle ground by stating that the Grantham enjoyed the Absorbaloff's depiction but was bemused by its smaller size. Well, if you want any confirmation on this, Grantham has actually done a video on his channel where he talks about the episode, and he was made it like last year, I think. So go check that out. His name's Channel Pup. Viewership 6.6 million, so up from last week, but that's obviously because I think I mentioned that the Satan Pit, there was like a heat stroke, I think, and there's a bunch of reasons why. I think there was this was in the midst of the FIFA World Cup as well. It was a big game on. 6.6 million, so fairly solid numbers for a late series filler episode, I'd say.
Coming right after the Devil episode.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Jake, your conclusion and rating out of 10 for Love and Monsters.
My conclusion was it was a nice episode. It was funny. It was, character filled and had some interesting elements and a different way of watching Doctor Who. In saying that, like, it's not the most engaging and extremely moving, or like it didn't leave that much of a mark on me. So to me, 6.5 I feel like is quite a solid rating. Yeah.
It's much more generous than most people give it.
Yeah.
There you go. Your turn.
There are some very strong elements in there, but I just struggle to enjoy the episode for a number of reasons that I mentioned, and it's just not one that grips me. It's not not an episode that I watch Doctor Who for. It's okay. It's not as bad as some people say. It's not as good as some others say. Personally, I don't think, anyway. 6.5 out of 10. It's harmless, but I'm not a fan of it, really.
That's a higher score than what you previously would have given it.
Yeah.
When Jake first started this channel, when you first came to do your first review, I think it was World War 3 and Dalek, you said you would have given it a 5.
I was tossing that up in my head, but I think the Jackie stuff is unironically strong enough to give it a 6.5.
Right. I love Love and Monsters. I love it. Elton, very relatable character. Love Linda and the way it is a love letter, but also a jab at fans. I think Victor Kennedy is great, and the Absorbaloff as well. I love the Absorbaloff. The kind of humor in this episode is very much of my taste. I understand it's not for most, but for me it definitely is. I love the little detour it takes away from the Doctor and the way it's formulated around the people that are affected by the events of the show. It's very creative. I love Jackie in it. I think she's one of the strongest points of it. Just as a character, I just find her so wonderful. And all the little details I mentioned throughout the review about how just small things I love about Love and Monsters, how quirky it is, how much I can relate to it, how much I enjoy it, and just how different it is. It's a one-of-a-kind episode, and honestly, for me, an absolute gem. So, I will give it a 9 out of 10.
Sweet.
Okay. There we are.
Very good for me. I'm very interested when we get to the Series 2 recap to see where things rank. I feel like it's going to be a lot different than when we did Series 1. Because Series 1, a lot of our rankings, although there were certain differences, like Empty Child, for example, I feel like this one's going to be... I think all three of us are going to be quite different on all the episodes. Especially considering... I know you two, and actually me as well, have actually given scores out of 10 for a lot of episodes that are around about at the same level.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's going to require a lot of thinking. But yeah, do either of you have anything to add on to my big fat 9?
No, I think this has been a long discussion
Yeah,
about
I
this
think we've
episode.
covered it. I think
Yeah.
we never have to ever talk about Love and Monsters ever again.
I will. Are controversial experimental episodes good for the show, or
Yes.
was this too far?
Nah, definitely.
The more creative and weird, this show allows itself to be weird. I may personally not be a fan of this particular episode, but if it opens the gateway to more strange ideas and more daring and bold episodes where they can be kind of off the beaten track of an already bizarre show, go for it. So I think absolutely more weird episodes.
Right. What would you like to see next time?
Isn't Blink next?
No.
Oh, isn't Midnight next?
No.
Not those two things. I'm not sure. Yeah. Maybe a return to world saving. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what the 4 tiers of the cocaine meter are?
Something sober, something Scarface.
Sober, sniffing, Scarface, and
Fear.
Fear Her was the 4th one.
Oh yeah.
Because the next episode we're going to be watching is Fear Her.
Alright.
That's what it's called. We will see you all next time for Fear Her.